An American father fighting for custody of his 9-year-old son has been invited to spend Christmas with the boy's Brazilian family. Invited. David Goldman has been locked in a legal battle with that family of the boy's dead mother for about 5 years. The family's attorney says it's time for the two sides to get together. On Thursday, a Brazilian Supreme Court justice blocked Goldman from taking his son back to New Jersey despite a ruling by a lower court. Goldman's case is not unique. Attorney Christopher Schmidt has been involved in several of these international custody cases. He's with us tonight from St. Louis, and also joining us on the phone is Christopher Savoy, a father who traveled to Japan to get his son, but he was arrested instead when he tried to actually grab his son and come back to the U.S. Let's begin with you, Mr. Schmidt. This case in Brazil is a little different in that it seems to me very less complicated than many. Here's the biological father, and the child is down in Brazil. The biological mother, who had been holding that child in Brazil, is now dead. What is the legal issue here?
You're exactly right, Drew. This case is straightforward, and the fact of the matter is it should have been decided years ago, even when the mother was alive. Under The Hague, the obligations of signatory countries are to act expeditiously to return the children to the country from which they were taken. That has not happened here, and Brazil is failing to meet its treaty obligations to the United States.
So is this Brazil just not living up to the agreement that it signed on to?
That's exactly right. And the reason they're not, and it's actually a common mistake, is the Brazilian authorities have tried to treat this case more as a custody issue. It's ultimately not. This is a child abduction issue. The mother wrongfully removed the child, Sean, from the United States, and under The Hague, the child should be sent back to the United States, and any custody issues can be dealt with here.
Christopher Savoy, you're on the phone with us now. Your son is in Japan, taken there by your ex-wife, correct?
Yes, my
you
son and daughter
in
are
September tried to go and get your son, but were arrested instead. Why?
Well, Japan is not a party to the Hague Treaty, and actually, in this case as well, it's been sometimes erroneously referred to as a custody case, an international custody case. It's actually not. Most of these cases are not, including mine. My ex-wife illegally, by U.S. law, took the children to Japan in violation of state law and federal law. So this is not really a custody case. I've been awarded 100% custody after the abduction.
Well,
it's really a kidnapping case.
Mr. Schmidt, in this case, I'm sure you're familiar with the Savoy case.
I am.
You know, Japan is not part of this treaty, so what do you do?
You're in a very difficult situation. There are a few options available to you. One is you can pursue criminal sanctions here in the United States and try to seek extradition of the abducting parent back to the United States. Of course, countries are often reticent to permit their citizens to be extradited back to a foreign country. And the other option is you can bring diplomatic pressure to bear, which Mr. Savoy is doing at this time. A third option is you can try and take matters into your own hands, as Mr. Savoy did. Of course, that is problematic because you can be arrested, and the State Department strongly urges parents not to take that course, not only because you can be arrested, but it can make diplomatic efforts more difficult and take away some of your moral leverage as well.
What do you make of the invitation that David Goldman now has to go to Brazil and spend Christmas with his son and with this family who has basically kidnapped his son?
At this point, I think it's a complete ploy. They made that invitation at the same time that they made a threat to Mr. Goldman that they had information that they might disclose against him that would somehow make the case different. At this point, the only option is to return the children to the United States, and the family down in Brazil, it would be in their best interest to do that as soon as possible.
Mr. Savoy, let me just ask you as a final question. In these cases, do you feel that a man, a father, has a tougher go than when he's trying to fight the mother of the child? In other words, is there a gender bias here and across the world where the mother is believed to be the better rearer of the child than a man?
Well, I think that we're definitely up against some cultural bias in every society, that traditionally women have been the child-rearing partner in relationships and families. So I think that there is that stereotype. But I would say that, you know, people are changing their minds. It's very important that both parents, we've seen in all of the research that the best outcomes with children are when both children, after a divorce, both parents are involved in the kids' lives. That's very clear. Everyone knows that. So that's an unassailable argument.
All right, Mr. Savoy, we wish you luck. Christopher Schmidt, thank you for joining us from St. Louis.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much. A really weird story coming out of D.C. A cop brings a gun to a snowball fight. Yep, it gets even weirder. We have the story.